Okay, so we're starting precisely at 7. Um, Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Connie Chang. I'm the commissioner for ANC 34G, District number 5, and that covers east on Connecticut, starting at Legation, and it goes all the way around up to the Circle, to Western, and down Broad Branch Road with a little jutting out, I guess. Peter always calls it an island, which is on Chevy Chase Parkway and Nevada Avenue that goes down to Jocelyn. I'm very happy to be here tonight. I have my panelists who I'll introduce briefly in a second, and they'll introduce themselves a little bit more fully. And Commissioner Gosselin here too, and maybe some other commissioners will join us. This is session 3 of the ANC 34G hosted information exchange series. And what we hope to do in this series is to engage and involve our community on topics of interest that have come out over the last many months. Questions and topics that were raised regarding the Chevy Chase Small Area Plan, which is led by the Office of Planning, and it was encouraged by the Commission for the Council to give a budget of $150,000 for the Office of Planning to launch this small area plan. We're still in the planning process that is still underway, and so this series, the hope is that we engage our community on issues. So session 1 was hosted and moderated by Commissioner Gosselin on small area plans in general with a great speaker, Jeff Farner, who works at the City of Alexandria in Virginia. Session 2 was hosted and moderated by myself. We had 3 wonderful apartment dwellers, they're renters who live in 3 separate apartment buildings on Connecticut Avenue, and they spoke to us last Thursday. And both of those sessions were recorded, and the video recording can be found on the anc3g.org website. So if you've missed it, please listen. And I hope that if you have any questions, just please send them to us. And tonight's talk is titled Creative Use of Space in Chevy Chase, DC. Leveraging underutilized space, supporting creatives and entrepreneurs, and ensuring economic vitality. And this subject matter of our avenue, our corridor, and the use of space has come up repeatedly in the visioning workshop that I attended that the Office of Planning led in the spring. They had multiple engagements, and I heard many different residents speak about this. What are we doing about our space? And other people talking about pop-ups and so forth. And so I thought this would be a very timely discussion for us to have. And I'm so pleased to welcome tonight 2 speakers, Kathleen Zeifang, who is a founding board member of Chevy Chase Art, which is CHART as well. And she used to be the executive vice president at the K. Fritz Foundation, and she's here tonight. And then Pallavi Chandra, who is the organizer for Chevy Chase Farmers Market that's located every Saturday from, I think it starts at 8 and goes to 1 at the Lafayette Elementary School Plaza. And so I'm delighted to welcome both of them here tonight. And I thought that I would ask each of them to give a brief introduction, and then I will ask several questions. And then please, the people who are in the audience, feel free to use the Q&A, ask your question, and I will be looking, and I will be inserting the questions starting around 7:20 or so. I'm going to give some time to talk and to share their personal stories, to give us some insight into their organizations and what they're planning on doing, what they've done and what they plan to do. And then your questions, I'll raise them, and then we'll give them a chance to respond. And I do hope that we end at 8, but if the questions are many, we might end at 8:10, 8:15, but let's see how things go. All right, so Kathleen, would you like to start and give a
Yes,
brief
thank you.
introduction?
Certainly, yeah. Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity to represent CHART in the community here. My name is Kathleen Zeifang, and I moved to Washington in 1968, so I've been here quite a long time, and went to college here over at Washington, Trinity Washington University. And I had a career mostly in the nonprofit sector. I did the arts portfolio for the K. Fritz Foundation for about a decade. And it was during the time when the economic development drivers around the city were the theaters, the nonprofit theaters, the Lincoln Theater, the Atlas Theater on H Street, And so we were very involved in helping to renovate and restore those art centers. And once that was done, it was remarkable that the whole neighborhood slowly and surely became back to life. I mean, these places were boarded up all around prior to that. So it was very exciting and rewarding to come in and do the art piece first, and everything else followed. So after I was at the K. Fritz Foundation, I worked at 3 of the major universities in town, directing development work for primarily nursing schools, one at Marymount University, one at Trinity, and one at Catholic University. So I retired after that, and I have always been an artist myself, and was very lucky to, I moved to Chevy Chase 9 years ago, and was very fortunate to meet a group of artists that lived here. And that group formed Chart in 2018. So that has just grown. Do you want me to talk about Chart now, or?
No, let's
Yes.
wait a second. Okay, so thank you so much, Kathleen.
Sure.
Pallavi, please. Before you start, I do, because I see Commissioner Zeldin appearing, I just want to welcome him and to say, please rename yourself, Michael, and just so you could put your district down. Pallavi, please go. Please.
Sure. Definitely. Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. My name is Pallavi Chandra. I was born and raised in India with the concept of the world is my family. There's a phrase in Sanskrit called Vasudev Kutumbakam, which means exactly that. I moved to the United States about 22 years ago and have been in Chevy Chase for about 12. I've always been interested in community development. Part of it comes from the concept from where I work in my day job at Fannie Mae, where as a company, we have always been focused on community building. And that's what, and then the fact, loaded with the fact that I'm a passionate cook, and passion is the key driver here. I don't plan anything. I just like start cooking based on the ingredients that I see around me. So it was but natural that I would be interested in the farmers markets. And I've been managing the Chevy Chase Farmers Market for about 3 years now. Love what the market stands for, and very, very passionate about women-owned and minority-owned businesses.
That's really wonderful. Can you, Kathleen, I'm going to turn back to you about Chart. How did that really begin? You know, you move here. How do you bump into artists? How does that happen?
I was fortunate to meet 2 of the artists, and I had no idea how many artists were in this area. And I was invited to a meeting, and they were talking about, you know, really how wonderful it would be and how beneficial for all the artists to actually have a nonprofit organization that would both serve the artist community, but also serve the community as a whole with educational opportunities and events for children. And so it was created in 2018, and it has a mission to promote and enhance access to and appreciation for the visual arts in the community, to promote education in visual arts, to create opportunities for all people to experience and participate in the artistic process. And since the very beginning, we now have 110 members in Chevy Chase, DC, and Chevy Chase, Maryland. So that's a huge community. I mean, it's really quite exciting that we're that vibrant. And what the organization has done over time, we did an art walk in 2019, and we had 20 artists exhibiting at 10 different locations in either people's homes or their studio in their home. And so people could walk from place to place and enter an artist studio, talk to the artists themselves, see their artwork, purchase something if they wanted to, but it was really an educational community event, and people were thrilled with it. We put together an art walk for 2020, and of course that had to be scratched. So we are now doing another one on the 23rd and the 24th of this month of October, 2 weekends from now.
Mhm.
And it is double the size of the first one. We have now, let me get the right number here. We have 44 artists that are exhibiting and selling their works from 23 different homes and studios. And if people would like to go on the website for CHART, it's chevychaseart.org, and you can, there's a little UR code there that you can scan, and that will give you the map and all of the artists' names and the type of art they do. So I'm hoping that people come out. I know they will, because it really is a great event. Other events that we have held
But
include.
Kathleen,
Oh,
let
yeah.
me stop you. Let me stop you right there, because I think this neighborhood walk is precisely it's just the title of this session, which is creative use of space.
Mhm.
So it is their own space, their own homes, and their studio where they produce their art, and then they're opening it up for those of us in the community to come and to view it,
Exactly.
to maybe not touch it, but to look at it and to describe that a little bit. I did go on that walk and I really loved it.
Yeah.
Describe that a little bit, and then how did you go from doubling from 22 to
Yeah.
43? Yes.
The wonderful thing about the group is we have a very diverse group of artists. And so some people are doing painting, some do sculpture, some do
Mhm.
jewelry making and photography and glasswork and all sorts of fabric art and all sorts of things. So when you get a group of artists of that diversity, it's wonderful to be able to go and actually watch an artist make something while you are standing there watching, and or see their studio and see what the whole process looks like and all the tools and equipment they need to actually make something happen. And these art walks, artists will be displaying their work outside for the most part, and then in their studios, and people can just talk to the artists and really understand what their process is, why their creative need is so powerful that they need to do this kind of work.
I have more questions, but let me switch over to Pallavi.
Sure.
All of the vendors at the Chevy Chase Farmers Market, can you talk a little bit about them? And I know you've gotten involved, but what have you done since you've been involved more deeply?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the market started off about 20 years ago in the Chevy Chase area. In fact, at the precise location that we're still at. In between, when Lafayette was undergoing its renovation, the market moved to Connecticut Avenue near the community center, at the community center to be precise. So the market initially was a bunch of farmers coming together and just bringing fresh, locally grown food to the market. We also had some other types of vendors, such as the meat vendor that we have, which is a local farm based in Maryland, and a Belgian waffle vendor who's been with us from the start of the market. When we moved to the community center, we lost quite a few of the neighborhood support. And when the space here at Lafayette opened up, we came back. But the people that we had lost, we kind of lost them forever. So what I wanted to do was just kind of stir the community a little bit and start offering options that normally they would not expect that at the farmers market. So one of the first events we did was yoga at the market. Wasn't super successful, but at least, we tried to get a buzz around it. And then after that, I started this whole concept of pop-ups where every week we were bringing it either a local artist or a local food purveyor or somebody or some kind of a cuisine that you would have to go up downtown or somewhere to, try it out. So for example, Ethiopian food, yes, there are restaurants in Bethesda, but you don't go there every day. or Turkish food or Eastern European food. So, and I think the biggest thing that really works for the market, I try to poll our customers a lot, try to get an understanding of what will actually bring them to the market every weekend, and it turns out most of them said, well, if I could get breakfast. This is pre-COVID, so I chased Call Your Mother Deli for 6 months. Every single week I would beg them to give our market a little chance, and once we got them, I think the market just took off, and the community's been super supportive. So this is our template. Every week I do bring in at least one prepared food vendor who is a pop-up, and in addition, off and on, I try to bring in an artist. Like this weekend we are having an artist come in from Rockwell, and also we're serving fresh pizzas at the market, so it's just a win-win for everybody. But yeah, that's kind of like created that kind of a template.
And so I want you to hold that thought because I want to go back to Kathleen. You have some new things coming up, but after you introduce that, I want to go back to Pallavi to ask you about the market. So Kathleen, would you share with the audience?
Yes, when she was mentioning the community center was very important in the early development of CHART. We would hold monthly meetings there. We had an art exhibit in the community center. And now, of course, that it's closed, we want to be able to really help influence how the new community center is structured, because it'll be very important for that center to have some art spaces and spaces that community groups such as ours can use. But to get to the bigger piece that we're doing right now, we have an exhibit coming up called WOW, which we have named because it's the windows on Wisconsin Avenue. It is a piece of property owned by the Donahue Company that is at 5500 Wisconsin Avenue, right across and up the street a bit from Tiffany's and Clyde's, and Brooks Brothers is right on the corner of this set of windows that we are now going to use for an entire year for art exhibits. Right now it is vacant. The whole building is going to be demolished in about 18 months by the company, and they are scheduled to build, I believe it's like 250 units of, I don't know whether it's rental or condo or what it is, but living units. And then they're going to also have space on the bottom for retail. There's a Marriott right on this same block as well. And the company has also taken over the Marriott. I don't know whether their plans are to just renovate, but they will be they will be owning and operating that hotel space as well. So in the interim between them deciding to do this project, purchasing this piece of property, and figuring out when the development is actually going to occur, which is about 18 months from now, one of our members was walking by the windows and just thought, wow, wouldn't this be great for an art exhibit? And so they've been terrific in negotiating with us, letting us have that space as a, just a nice thing that they're doing for the community, so that we will put in art shows. We'll have 6 artists in the windows for a period of 2 to 3 months, and then we will switch out, have a whole new show every couple of months for an entire year. And so that's going to open sometime in late November, and certainly we'll have a lot of publicity around that and have a reception. And the artists that'll be in the windows, people can go by and see the artwork. There'll be easy identification of the artist. And if someone wants to purchase a piece, they certainly can just contact the artist and make that happen. So we're excited about it. It's a big project. It's the longest term project certainly that we've done. And it's a way for people who own real estate that isn't being occupied to have a group like ours be able to come in and do a project of that sort. Now, certainly this one I think is exceptional in that it's a whole year long. I mean, that's very exciting. But even if a property was available for 3 months or something of that nature, it really is an enhancement to be able to have artwork in those windows and have people be able to interact with that artwork and the artists themselves.
Yes, this is a fantastic opportunity and a great creative use of space. Pallavi, for the Chevy Chase Farmers Market, how do you negotiate using that space? Can you tell us a little bit of that?
Definitely. So yeah, so we currently lease this space from DGS, Department of General Services. There's a yearly contract that we go through. Yeah, I mean, most of all, we have to have a very good relationship with our ANC. Yeah, so thank you, Michael. You know, they have to sign off, and then the school has to agree to us hosting the market over there. Once we get all the sign-offs, then the contract gets developed and we pay a monthly fee for renting that space.
And you were also saying that the vendors don't, you're not charging the vendors a percentage of sales or anything. Can you give us a little bit more so people have an understanding of who they're supporting?
Yes, absolutely. So the way I like to think of our market is it's pretty much, it functions as a co-op type of a space. We give every vendor the flexibility to bring their products, whatever they feel like. Of course, there's a certain degree of guidance that we may offer them, saying, you know, this might clash with another vendor, so you may want to rethink this particular product line. But our permanent vendors, of which there are 10, pay us a very nominal fee. So for about 6 months, we charge them $700. And for the remainder, winter months, we charge them $400. So that's the only income in terms of the income that the market gets. And additionally, for our pop-ups, we charge attendance fee of about $33. Typically, farmers markets, especially in the area, or holiday markets, tend to take a percentage of the sales. We don't do any of that. We have never gone back and checked, you know, how much did you make today type of a thing, because we're not in the business of actually running it like a business. Our whole concept is to shine a spotlight on all of these wonderful purveyors.
Yes. And you're really able to bring in a lot of vendors just for us to be able to see and to try out and to experience in our own neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And Kathleen, there's a question that's been raised about Chevy Chase Day that this Chevy Chase Citizens Association organized. Robert Gordon was made a tremendous effort to get everyone there. About 1,000 people went through. Someone wanted to ask, was Chart involved in Chevy Chase Day, and do you offer art classes? So I wanted to at least have that question answered.
Chart is very involved in Chevy Chase Day. Again, we were there in full force in 2019, and of course, then we were back this year. We had a display of many of our members' work, but we also did a wonderful children's effort, and the kids were making little puppets out of paper bags. This was Ruth Marcus that created this with Beth Cartland, and we had 150 children come by and make puppets. They were thrilled, and so we are an integral part of the Chevy Chase Day, and will continue to be. And as far as art lessons, As a group, we do not offer art lessons, but I know we have a jeweler who does lessons in making jewelry and glass pieces, and I'm sure we have others that could do that as well.
I have taken her class.
That's
It's
good.
really good.
There you go.
And Robert Gordon says in the chat that Chart did a great job with the puppets and the sidewalk chalk art and art tents. So
Oh,
I
that's
believe
nice.
that
Yeah.
that is true. The kids are very much entertained, I think, and
Yeah.
exercising their creative muscles.
Yeah.
So, we are in the middle, as I said in the beginning, in the middle of this Chevy Chase Small Area Plan. And we also, all of us are aware that there are vacancies at the storefronts along the Chevy Chase commercial corridor. So I wanted to just ask you, whoever wants to jump in, Pallavi or Kathleen, what ideas do you think we should be thinking about to make better use of that space, better use of the sidewalks? What's your thinking about that? Do you have any good ideas you'd like to share?
Well, I wanted to mention that we've had some great community partners. PNC Bank allowed us to use their parking lot earlier in the year on a Sunday, and we had about 1,000 people come through a wonderful pop-up of, I think we had 20 of our members there with tents and their displays. So that was a really terrific effort, and people were just thrilled again to be finally out and finally able to move around in an outdoor space and do something. The Avenue Restaurant as well has been a terrific partner, recently giving us their upstairs room for our monthly meetings, and just being just wonderfully helpful, and even the outdoor spaces as well for meetings and that kind of thing. So I think that, if the other buildings that are vacant would, it would help them to understand what kind of possibilities there are to do something. We've been talking with the Main Street people, the Main Street, Chevy Chase Main Street. I'm representing Chart on that group, and we would hope to perhaps do a pop-up in coordination with Main Street, if they could help get us some space for a weekend pop-up for the holidays. Would be something that might be, in the works for something upcoming that might also engage the other restaurants and businesses just for one weekend festival on the block.
So that's on the block. So there was a question about, actually from Alex, Chevy Chase Main Street, who says, what features make a vacant space well suited for your programming, which is complementary to a question that Jerry Mallitz has asked, which is, what ideas do Chart and the CC Farmers Market have for making use of the empty storefronts we have on Connecticut Avenue? I guess just emphasizing my question earlier. So street front, like on the sidewalk, yes, but what about the empty storefronts? What do you think? And then one more question, Kathleen, for you to think about, which is Robert Gordon has asked, Kathleen, do you have plans for public art, alarm boxes, murals, etc.? So I think I'll let Kathleen keep going a little bit, and then we'll move to Pallavi.
Yeah, I know the phone boxes are something that is something that we will probably be engaged with once that starts to really happen. And other public art, I don't know that there's been a particular conversation about that, but I'm sure that our group would love to be part of that conversation. As I said, we do have sculptors and other people in the group that could very well create some wonderful public art for the group. Somebody asked about what the requirements are for using a space, and with the example of our WOW storefronts, we are going in to do cleanup and painting and make sure the lighting is correct, and the hanging facilities for artwork and all of that kind of thing, which we're seeking support in sponsorships to be able to get enough money together to actually buy all those supplies and get in there and do that prior to the opening. So it's that kind of thing. And then, it's a nice partnership because the company, they're going to have the utilities up and running so that we won't need to worry about that. But, in this regard, we are, the public will not be going into the buildings. We are using the windows. And I would think that in other cases, we could do that on the avenue as well and just use windows. Going into a space, I think for a shorter term period would work, but once you do that, you have to have somebody on site that is responsible for that interior space. So,
Got it. Pallavi, do you want to jump right in and ideas that you have?
Absolutely. So I'm always full of ideas. One of the things that I've been really trying to explore is this whole concept of a night market. So, just to kind of, in the interest of the community, last year we organized our first holiday market at the Chevy Farmers Market. So the way it works is in the morning, our regular vendors, farmers will be there. And then as they are departing, we continue utilizing that space, and with the emphasis on bringing in women-owned artists and a very diverse group of chocolate makers and all kinds of yummy things that people are looking for the holidays. And last year when we organized the first event, it was so successful that I immediately saw a little window of opportunity in terms of bringing more smaller businesses that people would not normally know where to shop from. So for example, somebody in the neighborhood might be making really, really beautiful hand-painted cookies, but only the people who know her would know of what she sells, or somebody who does like hand-painted chocolates or makes, these amazing felted soaps. So from that perspective, I've been toying with the idea of maybe we need to start doing these kind of, regular creative type where the emphasis on creative is being more utilitarian, which people can take home and utilize that. So that's like one idea. The other thing that I quickly realized as I started developing the model for the pop-ups in the market was that people in our community are extremely busy. And so from that reason, they appreciate prepared foods. And in my travels in Asia, I saw the tremendous success of night markets. And I toyed with that idea a little bit and asked a couple of my customers, and the answer was yes. Let's do a night market. And the concept of a night market would be that you are having a little bit of entertainment, you have a little bit of food, a little bit of creativity thrown here and there. The challenges that we have in our current space is we do not have electrical outlets. If you're going to serve prepared food, you need an electrical outlet. If we bring generators, it disturbs the peace of the neighborhood. So yet we do not wish to move from our current space to the market, simply because that's where people know where to find us, and it's just too burnt into the neighborhood that every Saturday we're there throughout the year. So I've been looking at possible spaces. However, our constraints are obviously finances. We don't make a lot of money as a market. I and most of our treasurer, etc., we don't take. We completely work as pro bono. So it is. So those are our constraints, and we're looking for community partners. If people are willing to give us some space, we can definitely. I promise to entertain you and make it worth your while.
Thank you so much. I don't see other questions from the audience. Commissioner Gosselin, Commissioner Zeldin, would you like to ask a few questions? I'd like to be able to give you the floor.
Well, let me ask one, Pallavi.
Mhm.
I mean, certainly one of the most underused spaces on the upper Connecticut Avenue corridor is the WMATA bus turnaround.
Mhm.
And now loads of public money has been spent, dolling it up, but it's empty except for bus turns.
Yeah.
Have you talked to WMATA? It seems like a perfect area to do some of these ventures you're talking about, in part because you could bring in generators there, or there may be power from the building, and it is terribly underused. And with it, that whole stretch from sort of Northampton to the Circle is under-traveled too. And so have you talked to them? And have you
Not at all, but I can certainly look into that. Thank you for suggesting that.
well, I mean, I think more generally, any ideas you have for bringing more vibrancy to this 4 or 5 block area could really serve the community well. I know, Michael, we're talking about taking people from your district and bringing them down to the. But I'll end.
Mike, Commissioner Zeldin, would you like
Well,
to ask a question?
Actually, I was going to ask the same question that Peter asked, but expand it to also include the bank parking lot. So if we're going to do night pop-ups, the Wells Fargo Bank parking lot area is a nice space, and the parking lot that's behind the bank that's on
PNC.
PNC Bank, is that where you come out of Child's Play, that parking lot there?
Yeah. On Morrison Street, yeah.
Yeah. Now those people have that parking lot abuts some housing on the far end of it. And I remember once being at an ANC meeting where they were complaining about people being loud in their parking lot. But it seems to me for a discrete period of time, 6 to 8, 7 to 9, that would be something. And Peter, is that all your space? Those are you on both sides, or
no, I'm not. But so Wells Fargo is Connie's district. But I just say to Pallavi and to Kathleen, we may be able to help you in that regard, because if I understand it correctly, and both Michael and I, Connie, Michael and I are all freshman commissioners. All of these parking lots are special exceptions that we have to agree to let, I think, PNC, the CVS parking lot, Magruder's, Wells Fargo, and the parking lot behind what used to be Circle Liquor and is now Chase Bank, are all things that only exist because this commission says, okay. So the little leverage, just as you talk to them, right?
Definitely.
There's another question from Jerry Mallets from Pallavi. Broad Branch Market recently started having Halana falafel.
Hilana falafel. Yes.
Halana falafels come set up as an every Monday pop-up at BBM, Broad Branch Market. Little Beast last year had a Mexican food pop-up within their establishment. Do you see the potential for other similar activities for our Connecticut Avenue business corridor? Now, I know that Little Sesame also further south of Connecticut. They also took up the Little Red Fox's Sugar Fox space. It was wonderful. It was so nice to get a taste of that because they were downtown, from what I understood. So what's your thinking?
So the way I think there's a little bit of nuance over there. So as our market works, all our vendors and purveyors work independently. So, we come together as a collective on Saturdays or any other special occasions. But in terms of, if a vendor of ours was to go ahead and independently negotiate doing something with a local area restaurant or any space, we would not get in the way. We would just be, appreciative of that. In terms of the market coming together and doing a little pop-up on our own as a collective, I think that's a different type of a conversation. And by the way, Hilana has been at our market too a couple of times. So I'm glad that she lives in the neighborhood. She lives on Military. So that's wonderful. But yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I don't think anyone in the market board would be opposed to that, or our vendors would be opposed to that. But in terms of, how do they negotiate with an individual restaurant, etc., I that's not in our purview.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to go back to the night market concept, not just explain that a little bit more, since we've had a lot of, we're starting to think of how to do it, but what is it? What is the concept? Yes.
Sure. So the concept actually, started in Taiwan, if I'm not wrong. I had a chance to actually go to several night markets in Singapore, and the concept is very simple. It's for people to come out who live in the neighborhood, just come out on a stroll. There would be, taking an example of Singapore, nobody, I don't know of anyone in Singapore who cooks at home, because there are these little night markets in every little corner, and people come out. It's not a restaurant type of a concept. Usually it's just like you order right there, you eat. There would be some music playing in the background, and then there might be some like creative arts or something for the kids, and maybe a tattoo, like a temporary tattoo situation happening. So all kinds of fun things. Most of these places also serve alcohol. So that's pretty much the concept of a night market. Of course, if I go back into my background in India, the concept of street food is so important, which is something that I think we don't do much in the US, besides the food trucks. And a part of it is also the amount of I guess hoops you have to jump in for the right reasons. The whole concept of a new entrepreneur kind of trying to get all their permits and get inspected by the health department, coming up with the financing to create a food truck. They are all really, really tough battles to fight. And so with the little experience that I've gained in what I do, and the fact that we have some people on our in our board who can help us out with some of the legal stuff, we can definitely help getting permissions and such. But yeah, going back to your question about night market, it's just you come out in your neighborhood, you eat, you meet your neighbors, and you go back happy.
It's this. In terms of conversational weaving, last week we talked to the apartment dwellers, and toward the end we were saying, Commissioner Gosselin brought this up as well. He's like, so how do we integrate? How do we get people together? It would be so kind of cool if we had something like that where we were outdoors and we were each kind of coalescing, meeting each other at the end of the day, not just on the weekend. Maybe something like that at night would be really nice. And Beth Cartland said, it sounds like art all night citywide, one night in the fall. Tenleytown and 7 other areas, art, dance, music, and food. Very true. I have friends of mine did go and they really loved it. They even did the Mendy, there was someone, I think, at Tenleytown. Yes, and they had a really good time. So I have a question here from Ron Eichner. If a new development on, say, the Wells Fargo or other site were to dedicate ground floor space for incubator or pop-up space, would the collective be able to manage that space? That's directed to you, Pallavi.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm eager to take on any responsibilities. The biggest challenge for us is, both my treasurer and I, who are one of the most active members on the market board, we don't know where to start. So if somebody is willing to help us out, we are more than game to take it on from that point.
Okay. I just elevated Commissioner Higgins, who last week he was also amongst the attendees, and I'm just elevating him so he could be right up here. And he has a question for Kathleen that, John, I think if you're ready, if you'd like me to say it, I can, but otherwise, please do.
Okay, am I unmuted? I guess I'm okay.
You're unmuted and we could hear you.
Okay, yeah, for Kathleen, I was thinking parking is not necessarily guaranteed. We've just kind of gone through that. So what would you estimate would be, say, the walkable radius for art patrons, absent any parking availability? Would people living, say, more than 4 blocks away, not attend your things because it was too far to go? What would you say is, the more accessible, realistically accessible market, absent any parking, for people who would like to walk? 2 blocks, 3 blocks? Any ideas about that?
Well, as far as our art walk is concerned, we have members and studios that are going to be open both in the immediate Chevy Chase, DC area, and then in Chevy Chase, Maryland. So I think a dedicated walker could do that whole thing, but it's going to be a lot of different places to go into and view. And so I think certainly people would, in that instance, you would park somewhere in the neighborhood and move around, and then probably get back in your car and go over to Maryland, or vice versa, and visit the other studios. So as far as the art walk, which is 2 days, 12 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday, that would be the way that would work. I think if we, for instance, the Wow Windows on Wisconsin project in Chevy Chase, Maryland, that is something that people would most likely walk by in order to stop and be able to see the artwork and see who the artists are and take all of that in.
But if you had a show on Connecticut Avenue in a vacated retail space or vacated place in the arcade or something like that, a standard show, not moving, but there's no parking, would people from 3 or 4 blocks away walk to your show?
Yes, people would walk from 3 or 4 blocks away, definitely. I mean, I'm off Western 5 blocks to the east of the Circle, and all of my neighbors walk down to dine, on the avenue. So I think it's a very walkable community. I think definitely if we had an art show, people would walk to it, sure.
So Paul Thomas asks, Pallavi, we love the farmers market. Thanks so much for your role in making it possible. Just curious, why is it at Lafayette Elementary School rather than at a location within the small area plan, such as at the community center and library? So I don't know if Paul was here earlier. You did mention that when Lafayette Elementary School was being renovated, you moved the Chevy Chase Farmers Market moved to, I guess, the space outside of the community center, and and some vendors or maybe patrons did not come back. Can you explain that a little bit? What happened there?
Yeah. So I think when we moved there temporarily, a couple of things happened, and so I think I need to go a little bit into the business of farmers markets a little bit deeper, if you would allow me. So the business is actually very fragile in the sense that people who usually show up in this market, or any farmers market for that instance. This is not a very high margins business. At the same time, it's a very, very highly laborious business. So when patrons start dropping, which is what happened when we moved to the community center, people could not find parking, and so or they were just lost and they just thought that the market's closed, or maybe we didn't do enough to publicize the fact that we are now on Connecticut Avenue. So all of those factors contributed in our numbers massively dropping. I think the biggest benefit that we have by being at Lafayette is the fact that there's a park right behind us. Most of the people in the neighborhood are dog owners. So in the morning, or they are walking up to Broad Branch to get a coffee. And the market is just on the way. So for that reason, when we came back and we were able to bring the bagel place and a couple of other vendors that the customers really love, we've found that this place suits us better. We've been able to almost, I don't want to call it double, but definitely increase our footprint. Slowly, DC has been very kind in letting us extend a little bit in terms of the space. And I don't know what the future holds, but for now, we definitely want to be where we are. And thank you, Paul, for coming to the market every weekend. We appreciate you back.
So I want to go right back again to the corridor, and Alex Krefis is on the call here. He's in attendance. They put out a Chevy Chase Main Street retail market analysis, and I'm going to ask Alex to put the link on there. And this was done by John Stover and Associates. They prepared this report. They specialize in economic analysis, retail revitalization, and helping public, private, and nonprofit organizations collaborate to meet economic development objectives. Earlier when Kathleen introduced herself and she said that when she worked as the executive vice president for K. Fritz Foundation, they focused a lot on theaters, right? The art, bringing the art into a neighborhood that was not well developed, and then that spurring economic activity and development. Now, we have had in this report, it says that 25% of the businesses on our main street have operated for 20 plus years. So Chevy Chase features a notably high share of legacy businesses open for 20 plus years, reflecting the strong stability and health of retail conditions and the local community track record of supporting small businesses. This minimal business turnover, paired with the limited supply of available spaces, has resulted in a relatively small number of new businesses moving to Chevy Chase in recent years. Okay. It also goes on to say of the mix of goods and services and merchandise and so forth that are offered compared to some other areas that are similar to us, Friendship Heights and I can't remember I'm sure it's Cleveland Park and Van Ness. Yes, Cleveland Park, Van Ness. So there's little pie charts here that show the differences. Now for us, it's just clear, like with the pandemic, and even prior to the pandemic, like Circle Liquor closed down. There were in the arcade, there were businesses that closed down, but Alex reported out not too long ago at our public meeting that new businesses have come in. So our vacancy level, I see different numbers, and maybe Alex can correct me. I saw at one point it was 2% that the Office of Planning reported out, but then I've seen 11%. I mean, it's no matter what, it's hovering at a percentage rate that makes me uncomfortable because it's at the storefront street level. And so it is really vitally important that we figure out how to sustain the energy, I think, of the avenue. I had a long discussion with the Golden Triangle Business Improvement District the other day, and they told me, and Alex was on the call actually, that greater than 120 ground floor vacancies are in their area, like south of DuPont Circle and so forth. And this was astonishing. Throughout the whole district, there's 7 million square footage of space that are left vacant. But most astonishing in their area of Golden Triangle is that they only have 57 residents, I think, because they only have 36 residential units. So for them, they don't have people living around them. They are serving the office worker. And, as we know, with the pandemic, that's not happening. Now with us, because of the pandemic, because we're a residential area, we're all here. And so how do we introduce more vibrancy? How do we introduce diversity? How do we introduce new businesses that are providing services that we need? So this kind of retail market analysis, I think, is important. I think it's very important that we continue to engage, with our community about what we want to see. So for the apartment dwellers last week, there was discussions about lower price points for cafes. There are to really tap into the broader kind of income spectrum of people who live around here, and other things that we might need that we would like to see. And I think the small area plan is the place for us to be able to articulate the kinds of services and merchandise and restaurants and so forth that we would like to see. And and with if you study economics, the economics of location is that I used to always think, wow, if you had one like French restaurant, do you really need a second? But apparently, the agglomeration of businesses, it actually attracts more people because, if this one's full and I'll go to the next one, but I'll keep coming back and forth. So I don't think that it's bad competition. I do think that we should think about how to expand it. And so I'd like to know what the audience, if anyone else has a question about that. And I'm trying to look at the chat, but if Kathleen or Pallavi, if you'd like to weigh in and comment and share your thoughts, that would be great. Now, Jerry Mallets wants to say one more thing, so you hold your thought for a second. So Jerry says, FYI, Chevy Chase Business Corridor closings and relocations since the pandemic started. Okay, these are the businesses that have closed: Capital One Bank, Catch Can, Chevy Chase Arcade Barbershop. That's very sad. Chevy Chase Personal Training, Periwinkle, and Real Nutritious Foods. And then actually the Mexican restaurant that came after just went under. Okay, so 3 businesses have relocated to different storefronts. Harmonic Music Studios left the arcade and now is at the Periwinkle location. Quist MD and Burt's Jewelers both have moved. Other notable, I didn't know that Quist MD moved. Okay, but Burt's Jewelers moved out of the store, the front part of the arcade, and I think Juice or another a new business is now going to move in. Other notable empty storefronts: American City Diner, a real estate office next door to where Catch Can was. So there's been a lot of churn. Probably not as much as maybe other areas, but we have a small little, like 2 street, 3 street area. So for us, it seems like a lot. Thank you, Jerry, for that.
And Connie,
yes, Commissioner Zeldin.
Quist moved into the M&T building, so they expanded. Their real estate footprint to take over the top 2 floors of M&T bank building.
And largely because their clients needed the elevator.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So any thoughts that you'd like to share?
So if I can go first. So, I definitely see a lot of value and a lot of customer support for both art as well as food and shopping. I know for a fact that people come ask me week after week about certain vendors who are not food related. And that just goes on to show that and that's something that I really appreciate about this neighborhood, that people are willing to spend their dollars, not just on the Amazons or, some of the big stores, but also on area businesses. So in July of this year, we hosted a little art festival that was in conjunction with CHART, some of the members of CHART. Of course, did it go off to a resounding success? No. But did I see potential in that? Absolutely. And I think that's a concept that we should definitely explore more. The biggest constraints for us would be, would continue to be resources. If there are several extremely talented people who are your neighbors, who are a little bit beyond the immediate vicinity, people in Silver Spring and Rockville, etc., they would all like to come here. They all have heard about, on a weekly basis, I get so many emails from potential vendors saying that they would like to sell at the farmers market. We can't accommodate everybody. But if we had this concept of, continuous pop-ups, I think we would be meeting national headlines or something, because we would be changing the way businesses operate, neighborhoods operate, and it would be just phenomenal. I know it would be supported.
Wonderful.
I would like to just chime in there, because I think that's an interesting fact that people are seeking you out and asking whether they can be at the farmers market. And yet, as we're talking here, it sounds like to me that our Main Street Chevy Chase organization would really benefit from knowing of those vendors and really putting an active list together of the types of organizations and groups that would like to come over to the Avenue, including, the arts organizations, and really try to figure out how to do pop-ups. And, that's what the business owners, those building owners, really need to hear, is what's viable, how would it work, what would be their liability, how long these pop-ups would last for, all the little details about how to make that happen on an ongoing basis until they do have another business in that space.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Zeldin, what would you have a question or a comment?
Well, I did, and it was more to Kathleen. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi.
Yes, Kathleen lives right around the corner.
Yep, I do.
I love walking past your house, and I look in the windows, and each day there's a new painting hanging on the window. It's great. It's wonderful. But so here's the thing I was wondering about. The farmers market on Saturday pretty much closes down around 1-ish. Is that right, Pallavi? Around 1?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So what I was wondering, and there's the space, it's just empty space. What I was wondering, Kathleen, is there an opportunity for like an afternoon arts market? I mean, is it, if the at 1 o'clock, sort of essentially everything is broken down from the morning, then 1 to 1:15 or 2 o'clock, however long it takes to build up a new market. And then we have an arts market from 2 to 5 or something.
Yep.
Very good idea. I know that the chart group would love to talk about that. I know that we, as you said, we had the pop-up there. And I know Kirsty Little also did a pop-up of her own sculpture one time. So it would be interesting to try it. Yeah, maybe we could figure that out for springtime.
I think this. Yeah, this is such a good idea. I think these kinds of ideas, it would be really nice if Chevy Chase Main Street had like an open public meeting where people can come in and maybe just talk about how you can collaborate together in this way. Would be really nice. And really going right back to what Kathleen was saying about a member of CHART walking by the window there in Wisconsin and then saying, why don't we do something about it here? And having an owner be to be accepting of that idea and to make it happen. That's what we want, I think, in our neighborhood. I mean, that's the conversation we've not yet had with owners, right? To say, we're living here, we're here. Some of these owners, I don't know if they live here or if they're far away, but we need to have that conversation so that there's there's an openness, and a transparency to that, and the acceptance of new ideas of how to revitalize and to maintain the vitality, of our corridor. John Higgins, Commissioner Higgins would like to ask a question. Please go. We are a little past the hour. I'm going to go just a little bit longer. So hang in there. We're not going to go too much longer, but hang in there. It's just the last few.
Kathleen,
Yes.
just one question for you. Given that there are spaces available between Livingston and the Circle, what is your opinion about the viability of a commercial art gallery permanently located on the avenue in those blocks?
I think certainly a commercial art gallery would be a terrific idea. But at the same time, I think if owners understood that a more community-centered art gallery that would embrace the nonprofit element as opposed to just the for-profit would be also a good thing. We could work, with either entity. I feel like this area has so many artists in it, and we haven't even covered the musicians and the film critics and the film buffs and everybody else that's here that really loves the arts. And so I think the more we can engage the community and the owners of these properties in doing arts pieces, the better.
Thank you.
Okay, so what a question from Jan Solomon. Does anyone know how long it takes the market vendors to set up and pack up? I love the idea of trying to use the Lafayette space for art shows after the end of the food markets, but I know from craft shows I have been in, artists are usually given 2 hours to set up.
Yeah. So I can certainly answer that. So some of our farmers actually begin the setup at the market in the morning at around 6:37. The market opens at 9, and then it takes about like an hour or so for everybody to wrap up, especially the farmers. So typically, for example, the holiday market, I'm going to pitch it again. Please come and see us on the 13th of November from 2:30 to 5:30. We will have about 16 women-owned businesses, and that market will start at 2:30. So we're giving about an hour to about 2.5 hours. Now, when it comes to utilizing the space, our contract with DGS is that we rent the space. On our contract, it's written, it's from 8 to 1. And they don't understand that we will go a little bit up beyond 1. Every time that we do a special event, we have to write to them and get a special permission from them, which will include that the principal has to acknowledge that, okay, it's okay with me, kind of a thing. But we are more than open to utilize the space for art shows. The only challenge, once again, I'll repeat that there are no electrical outlets. So as the lights dim, it's really difficult to enjoy art.
Well, now it is 8:06. There's been a whole string of chats about gluten-free and special diets, and do restaurants on the avenue, are they, meeting these culinary needs and so dietary needs and so forth? And I'm a longtime, ovo-lacto vegetarian, so I'm always looking for better vegetarian options. And if anyone will please bring a ramen noodle place over here, I'll be so thankful. Thank you so much for a wonderful evening of getting to know both of you, Kathleen and Pallavi, and your organization, Chart, and the Chevy Chase Farmers Market. I think these conversations are really crucial. We just don't know that much about what each of us are doing separately, frankly, and we need to come together. And really, now is the time for us to come together and bring these ideas forward. The Office of Planning has their draft vision and goals document. Before we leave, I'm going to put the link down there again. Please respond to it. The vision goals is a document that came about after all of their spring engagements that the Office of Planning had regarding the small area plan. And they put this into a document that has 6 themes. And if you go online, and I'll just say it out loud, publicinput.com/Chevy Chase, you'll see this yellow document, and you can go and you'll see online each theme. You can then comment on it. So they want your feedback. Feedback is critical. So everything we've heard tonight, let's go over there and say, we want a night market, or we want, to try to use the space better, because then they'll be able to take that up. And thank you so much, Alex. He's put the link in the chat. I appreciate all of your time, everyone that's been here with us. We had about 27 people at one point. We still have 22. Of course, it includes the host, the moderator, myself, commissioners, and the panelists. But thank you all for coming, and we will have our next session next Thursday. I will read out the title. It's at 7 o'clock, October 14th. The next ANC 3G hosted information exchange is Community Land Trusts. How can they bring affordability into a neighborhood like Chevy Chase, DC? It's with Coy McKinney, lead organizer for Southwest DC Action, and Ginger Rumpf, executive director of the Douglas Community Land Trust. Zoom information is, I think, in the chat. I put the link. Just go to the announcement page on the ANC website and you'll find it. Commissioner Gore will be the host and moderator for that panel. And it really is very timely, because yesterday we just heard through a historic Chevy Chase DC hosted event with Ward 3 Vision, where they shared their 30-year vision for Chevy Chase DC. And if you aren't aware, you really should go there, and you should really watch the video when it comes out, and you should really look at the presentation. It's food for thought. They're coming out with a visualization, and so it's really kind of cool for us to see it and then to interact with it and see what we think. And the Community Land Trust talk next week is a good one, because we want to think about how to turn our Chevy Chase Community Center, public library, into a campus, and see if we can get mixed use affordable housing, more residential units to increase the housing stock a bit. Certainly the apartment dwellers last week said that they really hope that they could own something at some point. So we need to figure out that middle space. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to turn off the recording. You're welcome to stay a little longer while I figure out the chat and everything. And Commissioner Gosselin, did you have something you wanted to say? Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you, everyone. And I'm stopping it at 8:10. Not bad.